We're rolling. Comic books on TV episode. I have lost track at this point. Any idea, Ford?
It's the first week of February 2016.
That is the episode. Good call. All right, so we are reviewing, as he said, the first week of February's comic book based TV shows. As you know, I'm Hunter. This is my brother Ford.
Hello, everyone.
And we are.
Yes, and so we're the hosts of this little whatever. And so Supergirl had their Bizarro episode last week. The second, third, maybe even fourth time we've seen Bizarro on TV before. Most super-based shows like to get a Bizarro version. And this was a filler episode of Supergirl. And I was kind of disappointed that they cast Laura Vandervoort, the Smallville version of Supergirl, as a villain later on for the show. But I thought, how cool would it have been if she was the Bizarro Supergirl?
Okay, one, that would have been super cool. I didn't think of that, but you're right. That would have been awesome and great meta casting had she been playing Bizarro. But I will say, I didn't think it was that much filler. We got so much Martian Manhunter. And after him being so quiet in the White Martian episode, I was really pumped to see him being all over the place. We got to see, references to the House of El. We got to see, I don't know. I thought that the whole Bizarro thing was pretty freaking cool. I liked the way they did Bizarro. It made sense as her starting out very normal, breaking down, becoming more Bizarro-like, and speaking in weird non sequiturs and questions that should be statements and everything else. I thought it was a decent episode. I did think there's some clumsy dialogue and some, maybe a little bit not their best written episode yet. Like sometimes they're like trying to pitch the intensity, and I felt like just dial it down a notch. Everybody's adults here.
Yes, the stakes on the show are constantly like they're trying to remind you and like up the stakes. I mean, that's one of the great things about Arrow and Flash is there are stakes, but most of the time the stakes are personal. The biggest thing, I guess the singularity was a pretty big thing last year, but for the most part, the stakes of season 1 Flash were like getting my dad out of jail, saving my mom until he decided he didn't. The arrows were, Mark killing my dad's enemies, season 1. Season 2 was, world destroyed by Slade, and season 3 was Ra's al Ghul. And all the Supergirl villains so far, like, they're either been super personal, whereas like they're related to her, or they're like trying to they're tied to Krypton, or they're big, gonna destroy the world. Like they have yet to find a narrative arc like that's gonna drive the season, or at least a couple episodes at a time. Like there's no personal strife.
No, you're totally right. It's all the I mean, you gotta assume they're building the family element all the way to the top, and that's going to be their long running arc. I think is that the broken out of prison and her family now motivated to actually do something, but they haven't really tied it together in a super compelling way yet. They obviously tried tonight, but it's just not as tight as you want it to be. It definitely does not have the drama and the intensity, the natural intensity of the Ra's al Ghul and Arrow stuff, or the Wells and Flash stuff, or my God, the season 2 Deathstroke and Arrow relationships. It's just not quite on that level yet.
Yeah, the best, the narrative that's driving the show, it's not driving, like that is, at least attempting to drive the show is John's, right? Like,
yeah.
We have the White Martians, and like we have people interacting with his past. Like that stuff is much more personal and gripping than really like, the idea that there are just so many fucking Kryptonians running around, like, has always driven me nuts. Like, I love the Candor in a Bottle story, but in this world alone, we have like her aunt, her cousin, and now
it's basically
Bizarro and
like, see, I don't mind Bizarro. I like that, but you're right. Her mom's and her whole like gang is like Zod Part 2. You know, they seem to have the same kind of motivation. They say may not worry about having to kill all humanity, but put themselves back in charge of a planet. They have very little depth other than that, and they haven't developed themselves as well. I'll tell you one thing: Man of Steel developed Zod better for those motivations than in 2 hours, and Supergirl has really done yet in their run. But they still seem to have those same kind of, you know, basic motivations as Zod. I agree. I'd like to see less Kryptonians as a rule, because the whole last son of Krypton is not quite as impressive when you're like, what are the last, you know, 12, 15 children of Krypton? But it's one thing your cousin, and then, okay, these people your dad killed that are, you know, trapped in the fam zone. Okay. Her uncle and aunt too. Oh, and like 15 other prisoners. Like, did you say you have just, why haven't these 15 Kryptonians just taken out for the last 10 years? Like, I know he's Superman, but there's 15 of them.
Yeah, and but then again, I keep they're restricted by it's a CBS show, so I mean I'm not sure how hardcore, you know, narrative they can go. I mean, I can't think of a single, pardon me, CW show that the CBS show that has any sort of serialization other than The Good Wife.
No, you're right. I meant to say that in the last one. That's something you mentioned last time, was that CBS shows are all serialized crap that, you know, is in and out in one episode. And this at least isn't crap, but it does have too much of this one episode thing. I guess it makes sense for a network where you're expecting all these kind of wandering viewers. You got to have episodes they can just jump in on. But you're right, it does hurt the final product as far as the serialization.
But I mean, and if they're gonna go that way, just like, I mean, I don't know if they've noticed this. They must have, because they cast her. But Melissa Benoist is super adorable. Like, just let her be super like charming and funny and like, you know, like, and Cat Grant is, you know, like, maybe do a whole episode where she's not in costume or where there's no Kryptonians, where it's like she's just like trying to like save a burning building and, you know, get some coffee for her boss, like, or whatever her, you know, like, grounded.
It doesn't always have to be villain of the week.
Or yeah, I mean, just even it could be. I mean, that's one of the things that that made the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon so perfect, was that they would just do like whole 3-episode arcs of like Peter, like, you know, saving a burning building and then like returning a puppy, and, you know, like, that was perfect. Now I guess she needs bigger things to do because she's Supergirl, but, you know, if you're gonna do, you can do story of the week without doing villain of the week, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I feel I definitely get what you mean. You'd like to see. I actually have. I mean, my favorite 2 parts of the show are, and without choosing in order, when she's just Kara at the office with Cat Grant and her annoying little friend, and the awkward kind of creepy thing with Jimmy, and how awesome Cat Grant is. You can sell me the Cat Grant show, and I'd probably watch it. It looks like it could be Boston Legal with Supergirl in the background if you told it from Cat Grant's point of view instead. But I also love the Supergirl with Martian Manhunter and her sister. They could write Dance More as just a character development episode where the single story deals with her and her relationships, and not where at some point in every episode is someone like, oh, long impassioned speech about this huge gravity of this moment, because, you know, not every day it has a lot of gravity. It's momentous.
Yeah, and they should use Max Lord more, as that's my other suggestion. He's like the, you know, I think I said this at, you know, when the show first started, which is like, Max Lord is Kilgrave, but like, you know, Kilgrave's stick was he didn't want to walk into the White House, he just wanted to fuck with that one girl. Like, Max Lord's stick is, oh no, he wants to tell Supergirl, he wants have him control Martian Manhunter without they should use Max Lord more. And one other suggestion for the show.
Don't read a lot of the comics. People who don't read all the comics probably don't know what you're talking about all that much. So, I mean, we've mentioned it in previous episodes of this podcast, people who have listened to it, but if not, why don't you give a quick reminder about quite how nasty Max Lord is and what he does?
Well, I mean, he's essentially Kilgrave, right? You know, he can tell people what to do, and it's not so much mind control as, you know, it's never framed as a virus like it was in Jessica Jones, but it's definitely like he has to tell people what to do and you know, reinforce the connection at some point too. And he gets a hold of Superman. Zack Snyder. I don't know if I was the only one that put this, but when Zack Snyder's, you know, Man of Steel, when he has Superman snap Zod's neck, like he stole that image from Crisis on Infinite or whatever the story was, where Wonder Woman snaps. Max Lord says, "Well, I'm just going to tell Superman to keep going, and you either have to kill me or I'm just going to keep using my toy over there to destroy the world." And Wonder Woman says, "All right, well," and she snaps his neck. It's the exact same image of Superman snapping Zod's neck. Like, he got that from them.
To be fair, he did, at least for all our Superman fans, he did make Kal-El look a lot more torn up about it than Wonder Woman did. Because when Wonder Woman did it, she was like, well, that's a really easy call. Like, I don't like killing you right now, but you just said you had to make Superman destroy the planet. I can't stop Big Blue. Makes sense.
It was great, and I mean, and that was and it wasn't so much she was pleased with herself actually, but Max Lord is this, you know, and he should be in the ear of Martian Manhunter, like slowly. I mean, he should be acting like Grima Wormtongue, like that's how his role should be, like in the background, slowly poisoning people, like against Kara. I don't know.
We don't know if he has that power in this interpretation yet.
We have no idea,
because he was not in the comics. He was not portrayed that way until Infinite Crisis, right? Isn't that when we first learned he had mental powers?
I mean, Max Lord was always just like, you know, the rich guy who funded the Justice League. Like, that was his role.
Slimy. He was slimy and kind of a devious prick, but he was the rich guy funding the Justice League.
I assume they're gonna go this way. But so Supergirl this week, I'll give it a B+. I'll
give it a B+ too. Sorry, you can go first.
Bizarro could have been done better, but could have been done worse. But also, I think Smallville's Bizarro was kind of just as good 10 years ago. And
well, if you like Tom Welling, and that was one of his better episodes, Tom Welling was able to go to play the kind of prickish bad guy better than a lot of these superheroes actors are. Not these nowadays. Now they're great, almost all of them. But he did a good job with Bizarro, and he also did the Earth 2 like Ultraman series, or not series, but run. So yeah, I like those two. I will say about Supergirl, I did like that when Jimmy gave her Superman's cape or Superman's baby cloak. And then they didn't explain that's gonna be bulletproof because of what it was. They kind of, you know, led you to believe here this one won't be destroyed quite so easy. I loved seeing so much Martian Manhunter in this fight, and I loved that we had Bizarro and how totally badass she was. Did she at the very end? What happened? I zoned out. I'm zoning out now.
You know, she didn't die because they're gonna. I mean, they can't ever kill villains because it's 22 episodes a season, and you just have to.
What they do to her?
I don't know, man. Like, what, you know, Fish Mooney. She got sent to that place where they send all the Gotham villains.
I just meant but they put her in the underground place.
No. That's Arrow. That's all the Arrow villains. The Gotham villains, they get sent to that hospital.
Yeah. I thought it was like a secret. Well, whatever.
No, you're thinking of the other place where they sent Gotham villains.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, my thing with they are, you know, next week there'll be a bigger connection between the two, but this week they came out and said, you know, there's all the photos of Grant Gustin showing up on the set of Supergirl.
Yeah.
So have you heard how they're going to do it?
Well, I assume he's leaping realities. They have all these the portals, and
well, yes,
he's
but
jump.
I mean, have you? They're going to have a villain like connect the two, right? He has to be
I haven't
chasing.
heard the villain.
So the Jesse Martin, right? The Joe West. There's a picture of him holding a worm like this up to his Instagram. Yep.
Mr. Mind.
They're going Mr. Mind.
Well, wait. They can't go Shazam though.
No, but you're thinking Kingdom Come. No. Like, because Mr. Mind was the impetus for all of 52.
Yeah. No, I know. He started as a Shazam villain back in the day, but you're right that what he was. You're right. The big thing in 52. That was. Wow, that'd be crazy if it kicked off a 52 storyline.
Well, so that being said, we'll talk about this when we talk about Legends of Tomorrow. The fact that they're literally bringing the most ridiculous hero in all of DC and Marvel canon into their repertoire, but as well as Ma Hunkle, there was a picture of a robot, like a little tiny robot with legs. So, like, if we're going to have Skeets show up on Legends of Tomorrow and then we're going to have Mr. Mind on Supergirl, like, at some point, they're just going to be like, 52 people.
That's awesome, man. 52, for anyone who doesn't know, was one of the best series in, like, our entire run reading comics. In maybe 2007, let's say, 2008, maybe, after Infinite Crisis, DC decided to have all of, start all their comics back with a missing year where all of the big guns had vanished. Batman and Robin are somewhere training and repairing some things. Green Arrow leaves town and finally becomes a fighter that can hang with Deathstroke and Black Canary, as opposed to get his butt kicked by his girlfriend all the time. No, he's just kidding. And it was just awesome, and especially the stories with the Atom and Starfire and Animal Man, just basically wrangling through space in the universe. That would be so awesome. I love 52.
But I mean that at a certain point, that's the way they're. I mean, and it was the impetus for the naming of the new 52, because they just wanted to sell. They wanted people to buy this thing, but. At this, I think they're going back to that. I mean, if you're going to have Mr. Mind on one hand and the Time Hunters on another.
DC loves their history. They know that they were the oldest universe. They know they've been around since 1938 and continuous all the way through, unlike Marvel, which, basically skipped from like 1947 until 1961. And so they hold on to these old cups, and it's led to some weird times. They have to do some crazy reboots and when things don't mesh, but it's also led to Crisis on Infinite Earths, leading into a whole family of crisis stories and stories that reset the timeline, have incredible events. It's like basically if Infinity Wars and Secret Wars had been coherent enough to do every, 7 or 8 years as opposed to every 20, 25.
Right.
And then they also on 52 and now new 52, and now we have the 52 universes here in Flash, which completely correlate to the 52, well, not complete like universe for universe, but at least line up to the universes unleashed through Infinite Crisis and Mr. Mind and all that stuff.
It's insane. Now when we're talking about this will be the last thing on Supergirl. We're talking about villain of the week and stuff. Stop going with all the tropey Superman villains. Like, you got your Zod clones, you got your Bizarro, next week we're gonna get your flower that puts her into a dream, like all the Toy Man who's been done a million times, like,
you gotta excuse Toy Man. I think he belongs with Cat because of what he did to her kid, but the rest I mostly agree.
Like, I'm okay. Well, I mean, I guess he hasn't been done to death, but like, Superman has a lot of random ass villains. Like, go with like Mr. Mixilus Pitalik. Like, Like, I mean, you can just, if you want to just do a random episode, I mean, like you could really, I mean, Superman has a lot of villains not named Lex Luthor or clones of Superman or Supergirl.
Agreed. Well, I was going to say that we did learn about Cadmus this week, but despite Cadmus's ties to Metropolis and Superman and the Super Family, we did not learn about it in Supergirl. So we'll talk about that later. I had nothing else for Supergirl either, except I didn't grade it, so I'm gonna give it a B+ also. I thought the action was great. I did think they did a very good job with Bizarro, although Bizarro is pretty easy as long as you don't. I mean, as long as you show the evolution of clone that's pretty good to them breaking down and non-functional, it seems like they can play it pretty straight, and they did a good job. So I'm gonna give it a solid B+.
Oh yeah, I'll give it a B+ too. Before you reminded me of a really good version of Bizarro, and it's heartbreaking. So I guess they probably didn't talk about this on Clone Wars back in the day, but like the clones, like they don't age like normal Mandalorians or whatever. They're aging like super fast. So like on Rebels, like all the clones are like super old and decrepit, and like they ran into a couple like people that we know very well, like Blue and somebody else, and Rex was like they're like falling apart.
Huh. Wow.
Like
That's
a lot
funny.
like Bizarro.
Okay. All right. So after Supergirl, we have Flash, or do you want to do Agents of Carter?
No,
All right.
yeah, Flash first. Or no, I guess Agents of Carter. Yeah, Agent Carter. This episode was the first one that we've ever gotten with Peggy's, like, I mean, she shows up in the first of Captain America, the First Avenger, and she's already like badass Peggy. She knows how to fight. She's in the SRS, like a commander in the SRS even. So as far as I know, this is the first backstory we've ever gotten on her.
Yeah, no, these flashbacks, I agree. I think they're the first time. It's pretty cool the way they paralleled the other girl. What's her name? The bad
Frost.
Guy. Yeah, Frost. Yeah. Sorry. Anyway, go on.
I mean, I liked it. I thought they should have given her a little bit more time. And so what, she goes from frumpy telephone operator to like fighting alongside Cap in like 2 years. I mean, I guess Cap probably doesn't get into the war till 43, so maybe 4 years.
Yeah. But to be fair, a lot of people did some incredible things you hear about in World War II, and with 5 straight years of fighting, there was a lot to be accomplished. Have you ever heard about Christopher Lee and his crazy espionage heroics in World War II? And just like, every year he ended up being promoted higher and higher, every couple times a year, higher and higher, with like new secret super official ranks. And if you think she had 3 or 4 years,
Saruman?
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I've never heard that.
When he died this past summer, I saw some wiki fact list of cool crap he's done, and the amazing life of Christopher Lee, and just impressive. Point just being that during World War II, people did the people that were able to do this amazing things were required to do them a lot, and were able to move up pretty fast.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was just a little like, wow, she goes from that to that. But I actually like the Frost backstory a little bit more. And you can talk for just a second.
Well, Frost and her family, obviously, she did not have quite the home life you would have liked, and she ended up going pretty crappy. I actually have misplaced all my notes for that particular episode, and so I can't remember exactly what things I was affected by. So I really can't be more specific at this point until we get further in the episode. I remember what's going on.
Well, this was the episode ended with the great confrontation where Red Foreman's character walks in and is like, so you're the Peggy Carter I've heard so much about. And she's like, yep.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it's great because like that moment was probably one of my favorite moments on the show so far, first season or second season. Because he's threatening her, and it would come across like really menacing and like kind of sexist and like creepy in a way, and like power grabby in a patriarchal, like, sexism way. But the fact that we know that, I mean, I'm just gonna go for the last movie we saw from Marvel was Ant-Man. And Ant-Man begins with like Peggy Carter like as one of the 5 most powerful people on planet Earth. So him threatening her is such a cute moment of like, oh, you think you're gonna beat this girl? She runs Shield. Like, who are you?
But it would have been pretty cool if he had threatened to break his foot off in her ass.
Yeah, I mean, I love Kurtwood Smith. Like, in his career, I guess that 7 Show people just made just insane amounts of money because, like, none of them ever worked again other than Topher Grace and Jackie and Mila Kunis.
He played Steve Jobs, that movie nobody cared that much about.
Yeah, the other Steve Jobs movie that no one cared about.
Exactly.
But anyway, so yeah, I just thought that was great. So like the only thing that is, can they have her be a homewrecker? Like, I mean, the chemistry between James Darcy and Haley Atwell is just, it's off the freaking charts. And it's, I mean, at this point, in the first season, it was like, oh, they're cute. It's so cute. These 2 British people in America. Now it's like, all right, well, they'd be totally banging.
Yeah, well, you gotta think that he's obviously a very insecure dude. And
is he though? He's always like, I want to do this. I'm down for this. I can do that. Like,
but everybody always rips on him and calls him Susan, and he's got the messed up leg. And didn't she turn him down last year?
No, I'm talking about Jarvis.
Oh, Jarvis. Oh, well, yeah. I thought you meant Wrecking Home for Sousa. Well, for Jarvis, yeah, you're right. They do flirt a lot, and it does seem like he'd probably be like, well, you can't turn this down.
Yeah, I mean, there's just no. Yes, she's gonna break up the other dude and his fiance for sure. They won't. That's fine because they're not married, I guess, or whatever. But the whole, like, he's constantly talking about his wife, Jarvis is, and the only thing the way I can get around it is if like they want to like if the wife of his wife wants to like swing with, I mean, but you're like 10,
that's where they're going. That's where they're going to go with it.
But you're like 10 years too early for that. Like, if the show was 1962, you could like maybe buy that, but like 51, no, I don't buy
that. And either way, you're not seeing it on Disney, so it's hard to imagine that's going to happen.
Well, Captain America is going to be banging her niece or her grandniece or whatever in this next Civil War. Like, Sharon Carter's showing up.
Yeah, but to be fair, he probably will think that she looks like her aunt, and so it kind of justifies it.
That's going to be, for people who don't know, I mean, Sharon Carter is, like, Peggy Carter was a lesbian minimal character who was an original founder of S.H.I.E.L.D., but like nothing else in the comics. Whereas her niece, Sharon Carter, was like essentially who Peggy is. And now they're actually bringing Sharon Carter into this same Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, anyway, the only other thing I want to talk about this show, or before you can move on to the rest of the CW, was so is Madame Frost? She just absorbs things. Like, what what's her?
Well, she has some of that negative matter in her, and I guess the negative matter, I don't know what it does exactly. I mean, obviously, it steals the life from people who she doesn't want to be alive, or maybe it goes into them and kills. I don't know, but it makes her powerful, but also seems to, do damage to her body when she uses it. I don't know really what she is or what her deal is, but um, she's pretty powerful and crazy as crap.
Yeah, I mean, it's a so far we've only. I mean, she's. It'd be really hard to hide this like giant gash in your head, right? I mean,
Well, not if you wear your hair like this.
yeah, not if. I mean,
Oh,
this. And when that thing is like when they're talking about the zero matter and it's like morphing and shit, is that the same stuff that like we were dealing with on Agents of Agents of Shield this year?
that's what I want to know. Is that it seems it seems too physically similar to be made by the same production company and not and for it to be an accident and not being aware of. So it seems to me like there's got to be some connection to the portal material, right? That's all it is a portal. But if there's a name for it, if there's been a discovery of negative energy, if that's what it is, negative matter, wouldn't it have been talked about in Shield already? I mean, those guys are 60 years ahead in the science game. They would obviously know what's going on a little better than these guys do.
I mean, unless all of these people die except Peggy, and she's just like bury the fuck out of it.
Okay, fair enough.
Like I mean, it is weird that I mean we know that like if it does, she's the only one of these people we've seen later on. So
True.
I mean,
that's true.
I guess when you're head of Shield, you can bury shit.
Yeah, and that's very true. That's probably what it is. Either that or yeah, that's probably it. Somehow it disappears. It's obviously got teleportating possibilities. Do you think that's what happened with that blast, that bomb that went off? Is it transported part of the energy to that other planet? I mean, it's got to have some connection to that other planet. You think?
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that the that we'll come across like early experiments of the same things that sent Will, to the thing.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping too. Was it would tie the two together, and that makes me think it probably does have something to do with it. So it seemed like, obviously, like I said, physically similar to not have a reason.
Well, anyway, that Agent Carter is other than the inexplicably looking like bad news we got today on Monday, February 10th or Tuesday, February 10th. This was a great episode and a great week for the. I mean, she's the. When people bitch at Marvel for not making a Black Widow movie, I mean, like, well, we're kind of, just watch Agent Carter. And
right.
it was a solid A-. Yeah, other than the, I hope it stays on the air for a little bit longer.
Yeah, today we found out that Haley Atwell has been offered and agreed to another pilot from ABC. Although they say that she's happy to do both if both get picked up, it does seem unlikely that the same network would have tried to put her as the lead in two different shows. That doesn't seem to happen very often.
And I mean, do they really like a show based on Hunter and Bobby more than Peggy Carter? Like they think that's going to get bigger ratings than Agent Carter or more. What I mean, I don't know. That's a confusing business decision. I don't understand how they could think that those two are more bankable than Peggy.
I would say the situation allows the Shield spinoff to have more unknown consequences because you don't know that everything turns out okay, and you don't know how it could tie into eventually the Infinity War. You don't know anything about the future once it's on the current timeline. You know what happens to Peggy. More or less what happens to. You know that Tony Stark's dad lives till he's older and has a kid. Jarvis had an effect on Tony Stark, so he must live for a while. I don't know. I Peggy Carter's really solid. I think it's really well made. I think a big problem you have is, and it's the same thing the Black Widow makers are going to face, and it's the same thing that we're going to have to worry about for Wonder Woman, is, everyone complains about there's not enough female characters featured or enough minority characters featured, but people, go to movies wanting to see, people like them frequently, or a story they can imagine themselves in. They read things, they picture themselves as a protagonist, and the enormous, maybe not enormous anymore, but definitely traditionally the much bigger base of fans for comic books has been males. And there are a number of comic book series I remember that were started up by DC and Marvel that featured females. They got canceled after 10 or 12 issues or less because there just wasn't a big enough audience, because females weren't buying the comics. And if females aren't going to support the female heroes, it had to be males that did it. And if it wasn't marketed towards males, have a hard time succeeding.
I mean, it's just ABC is like, I mean, you can drop. I mean, it doesn't have to be connected with Marvel. It's like people watch fucking Scandal. Like people watch and
Supergirl seems to be working just fine.
Well, but I mean, that's ABC's marketing. That's a marketing issue. They market Agent Carter as a comic show, whereas like if they just marketed as like charming British people in the 1940s kicking butt, like, and one of them happens to be like, the most charming woman like ever, people that watch, you can just put it on after Scandal on like Thursday night. You can put it on after How to Get Away with Murder, or Grey's Anatomy. Like, it would fit.
I do
marketing.
agree with that.
Like, why are they?
Right.
It's so stupid.
Marketed. It's marketed to the Shield audience as a spinoff of Shield, featuring no one they know except for that chick from Kerka. No offense, because she's way more than that. But if you know nothing else, that might be what you see it as. And they don't. I'd see advertisement that way during Shield, but when they're advertising during the week on off times during other shows, they should advertise during Scandal as a strong, empowered female show. They should advertise it during Get Away with Murder as a murder mystery espionage show. Like, they should market it during different shows for what its strengths are, because it still has so many strengths. You can market it as any of those things.
Yeah, and the one thing it's not is, it doesn't have, it's not Legends of Tomorrow. Like, I mean, like, and it doesn't want to be, it does. Legends of Tomorrow is, everybody's in a costume at all times, using, its action is so much more grounded. A lot of times she'll like, when she fights, she takes, dude and like smashes their head on her, on their face on her knee. And that's the end of the fight. Whereas Sarah's going to like throw 4 kicks, a spin kick, and a punch before she's done.
Yeah. Well, and Ray and Firestorm's blasts, like, just miss all the time, or they do hit. It's just a weird little explosion. It's not like Firestorm's using his power to control, physics to do anything crazy. And it is still not as effective or as brutal as when Peggy Carter knees someone in the head. You're right. Peggy Carter is still made for adults. Like, CW is made for, those shows are probably, 17 to 28 is their prime. And Marvel's on ABC, it's a real network. So they definitely skew it a little bit higher.
That being said, hey, Marvel, here's just free idea, because you already own this. So like, if you want to make Peggy Carter as popular as, like, if you want to make as popular as Supergirl, because Supergirl has Martian Manhunter, like, just have her dealing. I mean, DC is going to the water in a few years, right? Like Aquaman showing up in Batman v Superman, and if Captain America's frozen, you have another really, really famous character who happens to be a dude who has never worn a shirt in the history of comics.
Now, but do they have rights to Namor?
Yes. This was
SF doesn't. Fox doesn't have the rights to Namor?
No, this was confirmed, I guess. They have the rights to both Defenders. Uh,
So they have rights, but okay, but they have rights to that Human Torch, not to.
right. Yeah. So they could have her the black guy that got what's his name, Willis, the doctor.
She's all into, yeah,
The guy she's constantly flirting with.
yeah.
Um, they could make him into a much more compelling version of the Human Torch than than the one in Josh Trank's piece of shit.
Yeah, but he'd be a robot. But he could be this could be even better if they had if they have a way for him to be astral. He could just possess the robot and give it real personality and a character. That'd be more, well. Look, in Josh Trank's Human Torch, I don't think that Michael B. Jordan was the problem.
No, I was just saying, like, I don't know. You do Namor. Hey, that solves all of these problems. Do Namor. You have.
If you could,
I mean, I mean, my God, I don't. I mean, that would. You could just have him running around for like 2 episodes. I mean, I don't know. That would solve all these issues. It brings all the comic book fans, and you know, it's the old CW thing. You know, it's cast Joe Manganiello, right? That dude's never wore a shirt his entire acting career.
No, you're right. If you have Namor, they should use Namor. Namor is awesome, and he's not being used anywhere else. And he'd make perfect sense there post World War II. He could totally be flirty, be a complete dick to her, have the same relationship he has with Sue Storm in the future, and it would play great. And yeah, I mean, I was reading some comic book from 2 or 3 years ago, and it had ads for Arrow in the pages. And every ad for Arrow was just one of those dudes topless, just sitting there like, ugh. And so the first page is Stephen Amell, and he's got this like on his face, looking like the supernatural guy is like, and then he's just ripped. And then it's got Diggs, and he's just I mean, they had with Roy too. I didn't see a single one that had Sarah or Laurel or Thea, but every single ad had one of those guys topless on it. And you're right, Namor could be just as topless.
Yeah. And it's I don't know. We're gonna get a show based on Hunter and Bobby over this. Like that's what you're going with, ABC. That's your move. Come on.
Seem a little bit cowardly.
I don't know. Anyway, so the CW shows.
Sorry.
The CW shows this week: Flash, Arrow, Legends of Tomorrow.
So starting with Flash. So we start out. Flash's villain this week is what looks like DC's version of Marvel's version of Sandman, where it's just his name is Tar Pit, and he throws mud around, or maybe he's made of tar, but he can sink down into it. I don't know. It's not super clear what happened to him when he got. Was he in the accident, or did he come through the singularity, whatever it was?
No, he was jokered, but like they dumped him into something, and then it happened right when he was. Yeah, so he's still a metahuman. He's like a rejected season 1 metahuman.
Right. That's what I thought.
But fuck all that stuff. This episode was a great Wells episode. I mean, Tom Cavanaugh is just straight up stealing this season. Like, I thought he stole last season.
No, you're right. He's great. Thank God they didn't not have him back on the show. Thank God we have Earth 2 and the ability to still have him around. And this episode, I thought we talked about this, and maybe I'm having deja vu. This is the one where he's stealing the power from, he's stealing the abilities from Flash, or stealing the speed from Flash, right?
Yeah, Barry's just a little bit slower.
Did we talk more about, or did we already talk about how they've kind of given Barry and him closure of the last 2 episodes, and like trying to make it? Oh, we did with giving Reverse Flash another appearance we did that before. And here, this
Yeah.
episode of Wells is his desperation and his journey to the decision he makes, and the fact that he's willing to do it for his daughter. He warned Flash he'd do it. He warns him in person in this episode that he'll do it, and he begins to do it. But he's a good man, and seeing what the effect, what he did, seeing Flash get hurt, even before Iris got hurt, he's about to try and tell him. He comes clean. And what I love the most about Flash, more than anything, is how much like adults everybody handles it. How not everybody right away, everybody freaks out for a minute, as well they should. And then, Barry and the rest of them afterwards come to realize, hey, it's his family. Who could say we wouldn't have done the same thing? Cisco, you told Captain Cold who I was, we've done crap happens.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was a great it's all. I almost feel like sometimes they write these episodes, film them, and then ask people to watch them and give them notes. And then somebody pointed out at the end of the script and was like, wait a minute, they've all done this exact same thing, put their personal safety or people they love over the rest of them repeatedly. They've all done that, and to have Barry point at each one and be like, you did it this time, you did it this time, you did it this time, I did it this time. That was of shows are not that self-aware unless they're run by Dan Harmon.
No, they did a great job, and it's what's great about Flash is because they have that kind of decision making so often where they don't just Arrow. People just get so mad about some of the dumbest things. And last season, I thought the way that everybody was reacting in when the Human was dissenting was causing dissension amongst the two different versions of S.H.I.E.L.D. and how everyone seemed to make not everyone, but a lot of illogical decisions that seemed to fly in the face of what they established over the whole first 2 years. It wasn't weak enough to really bring down any of the episodes, but there are a few different points where I was like, that's a little weird. And Arrow does that, and Gotham for sure does that, but Flash almost never does. And when they might have a tough time for a minute dealing with relationships, and that's real. And it's okay as long as it's a reasonable problem to have the reactions to. And Flash is so good about it.
Yeah, and so I want to give a shout out the most improved player award for the first half. For season of all these shows. I think is Candace Patton, Iris West. She started off season 1 as really just dragging the show down, constantly, having things show up at her coffee shop. And then season 2 started off, or season 1 ended, where they kind of forced her into being a journalist in a way that, people who are like, oh, I guess that's realistic, but not really. Come on now. And I mean, I guess just because you're pretty and the guy wants to bang you, he'd give you that job, sure. And now, she's carrying the weight of the episode, when she's telling her dad wait, you're not going to actually be a dad to this kid? What are you doing, right, Joe? And she just season 1, Candace Patton would have butchered that, and now she fucking nailed it. And now that Barry doesn't have trying to free his dad, or that driving arc, the West's family dynamic is kind of the thing that's tying the season together.
Yeah, they haven't had as much Zoom as you would think, especially the past few episodes. And without him, Barry doesn't really have an overlying arc this season, especially now that Patty Spivet's gone. So the real arc for Barry is, you're right, the same as the whole West family, which is this new kid, new son, brother, and his dying mom. And they've done a really good job. It's really, I like the kid playing Wally decently. I like the driving fast thing. It makes me think of, how it's a good introduction. Kid likes playing with speed. It's really well done. Flash is so good. The acting is so good. I feel like although she may not have done an amazing job with that kind of role last season in the beginning, I think she still has always been as good or better than Laurel, and better than Thea was in some of the first season or two. So I really love this cast, and I think she's done a great job too this season. She's really stepped into a role that kind of combines. It's way more important than she had last season, and she's smarter and handling things much more responsibly.
And they're not ham-handedly force-fisting, you know, Barry and Iris together. Like, you know, they just kind of put it out there that, you know, it's going to happen, or, you know, but there's no, you know, at this point, they have to reestablish, like, at this point, they're so clearly brother and sister, it would be creepy for them to start macking on each other. They have to, like, do something to make it, I mean, I think of them more as brother and sister than I almost do as Ollie and Thea, in a way. But anyway, yeah,
you're kind of right. I mean, they have lost any of the chemistry that they had developed. Well, but they developed it, and they developed it pretty well in one episode last season. And like it was always on edge, and then that one episode where he ends up kissing her before running back to stop the Weather Wizard, they bring it all to a quick head between, you know, a little flirting, fall into an old habit. I feel like all it would have to take would be him really saving her life, or her really saving him, and they could bring the emotional level up enough to have them kiss finally.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's not that far out of the reach. It's just it's a testament to how easy everybody is on the show. Like there's I mean, it is one big family, and when at the end when they all forgive Wells, I mean that's you know, it just plays on awesome. That we've had, you know, 2 seasons, virtually almost two full seasons with these people. You know, they've been light on the action the last couple weeks. You know, there have been a few running punches here, or, you know, reaching out to stop here, but like, you know, no speed battles, no, you know, running through buildings or that kind of stuff. Is that a function of saving it? Is that a function of not wanting to oversaturate the audience with that type of stuff so they still get thrills when it happens? Or is it a function of Legends of Tomorrow is really fucking expensive to make?
I think it's probably a function of 2 or 1 and 3. I think that Legends of Tomorrow is really expensive to make, and it's their first go round. So they probably both shows had to agree to make Legends of Tomorrow the main budget set piece for this 8 week. It's only 8 weeks. You know, they still probably, maybe they allow themselves a little bit less. And so, like you said, they're saving it for the big moments, because they've had so many A+ episodes that they don't have to worry about each episode building and being better than the last one. But they do need to worry about their big episodes, their big set pieces being at least on par with their last ones. And so each one gets a little crazier and a little bigger. They've got to have the money for it. And like, it's not a movie. It's 22 hours of entertainment reaching a lot less people. They don't have the budget to make it run throughout, so they're kind of saving their punches. And the great thing about Flash is they can do so much with just the actors and relationships, and him losing his power, or a little blip of speed right there, which, to be honest, is pretty damn cheap to make, to just add a blur effect behind one person moving quickly. It's just what they have to add in the big, powerful villains who have visually stunning things, or the interaction with 2 people who are moving fast and fighting for a long time, that it becomes pretty crazy, I'm sure.
Yeah, and the other thing I would wonder how Legends of Tomorrow is affecting it is there has to, like, they have to separate Rory and Snart from the Legends of Tomorrow crew at some point, just to like have an episode of Flash where they get to, you know, right? You can't go a whole season of Flash with one Captain Cold episode.
Okay, in theory, they had 2, because they had the one with his dad that you didn't love because it wasted the Captain Cold episode.
Right.
But in other theory, they could, because as long as at the end of the show they bring them back to the day they left or shortly thereafter, then they don't really have to be gone for the whole season. Remember,
So you're saying, I guess Legends could end before like they could come. Legends could end because there's only like 6 more episodes, and there's like another 10 of Flash after that. So
right, well, one that, but also Legends at the end of it, they could come back to now if they wanted, because they have a time machine. And when they left, Ray Palmer said, "I'm sure he'll bring me back to the time I left, but just in case he doesn't, here's this." Now, that doesn't mean he will. It probably means he won't, since he bothered saying it. But in theory, he could just bring them back whenever they feel like it, like right now.
Yeah, I mean, you're totally right. They could pick exactly when to be dropped off. Yeah, that's true.
So I don't know. Well, anyway, we're about to get Legends tomorrow right after Arrow, and we have gone on for a while so far. So I will say this Flash is B+. It was a great episode, really well put together. It lacked any of the big set pieces. And when you're watching the superhero shows, unless it's just maybe a little more fun than this one was, it's hard to match the excitement of those big set pieces. And so I'd say this is a solid B+. Reach for this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't need that stuff. So I think it's, for me, it was an A-. Where, I mean, I got plenty of emotional character development, and that's fine with me. I just thought it was interesting to to notice, boy, around when Legends started, they've kind of dialed back the Barry. He's spending a lot more time as Barry than the Flash.
Right.
And
no, I feel that's true.
And a part of that, I think, is that Grant Gustin is like, people just adore Grant Gustin, and why put a mask on him when he can just be charming and Grant Gustin. Anyway, so Flash, I give it an A-. I could just love the Iris stuff, and Tar Pit was kind of stupid, but I don't know if anybody's ever it's secret, but lots of comic book villains are really stupid. And you can't make all of them, revamped and cool and, in a 21st century edgy way. Sometimes it's like Tar Pit. What is he? A guy that got tossed into a tar, and he can he's a walking tar pit. What are you gonna do with that? What are you gonna do with that?
No, he's exactly as original or unoriginal as Marvel's Sandman. He's a walking sand man, or Hydro Man, who's a walking water man. And it's, perhaps a slightly better name or not. But on to Arrow, which was actually maybe my episode of the week.
Me too. Did you just reference Hydro Man?
Yeah.
Like the old X-Men villain? Or Spider-Man villain?
I think it was Spidey. Yeah, he's Spidey.
Yeah. Oh, man. Wow. I remember that guy on the cartoon, for sure. Hydro Man. Yeah, terrible. Yeah, for sure. And his toy was Shocker's toy, but painted blue.
I'm pretty sure there might have been I was gonna say, was there Electro Man, but I think that was just Ernest P. Worrell and Ernest Goes to Prison.
Okay. Anyway, wow, Ernest Goes to Prison reference. Okay, so Arrow, yes, episode of the week for me too. Kind of a flawless episode of Arrow. The reintroduction of Roy Harper in a way that I should have known, because basically the reason why they hired that kid to begin with was he was good at parkour. And so when Ollie is chasing some dude who's really good at parkour, it should have put in my brain, oh, that's probably going to be Roy.
Dude, that still reminded me of the first season, because Oliver, I think they hired Oliver also because he's super ripped and can act well, because he used to do so much parkour. Before Arrow got its budget, the way that they showed action and excitement was Oliver doing parkour around the rooftops and around alleyways and stuff. And so it made sense. That's also how they used Arsenal or Roy when he first showed up. But yeah, that reminds me a lot of the first season. It's pretty cool to see, and that whole parkour chase scene. And now back to your summary. Sorry.
Yeah, that was a way to reintroduce a character in a way that was not stupid or like, totally like they were jamming him in for the point. It was like, oh, that was just cool to have Roy back. Roy is one of my 5 favorite comic book characters ever. So, as much as I kind of dislike the actor, the writing for him has always been solid. But so this episode was great, except for the whole, like, I mean, dude, if I was like, oh, let me die. I mean, like, I wouldn't really expect my family to be like, it's his decision, let him make it. Like, come on now. Like,
yeah, I totally agree with that. Like, that's their job, is to be responsible, and I don't want to hurt anybody else or this or that. The family's job is to say, no, right, I'll totally respect your wishes. I gotta go respect your wishes though first. Let me back, and you save your family. And that's just a silly conversation that's not worth having. And the story with Thea, it's intense, but the whole time I'm thinking, did you lose Constantine's number? Like, we'll talk about Legends of Tomorrow and how maybe the solution isn't perfect, but no one's even thought about it yet. Like, you in the episode say, oh, well, she's okay because Constantine cured her, but I still have to murder Ra's al Ghul. I don't know. It seems a little unfair.
And also, like, okay, Malcolm, present yourself for murdering. Right? Like, if it's your daughter and the only way she can survive is by, like, killing you, okay, don't you, like, kind of, like, lay down on the floor? Like, here's a knife, Thea. Why don't you? Here's my throat.
No, you put the sword in her hand and then you fall on it. And
right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, like.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. You don't even give her. You don't even need to let her say no. You save your kid.
Yeah. I mean, but all of that. Ollie just now that they've kind of settled the Felicity situation, they've now everybody gets to be. I don't know. It was just a fun episode of Ollie in Team Arrow being Team Arrow, and I cannot believe Diggle is still wearing that helmet. Like, come on now, get him a cool, like, it's
remember. Okay, this episode they introduced. They had a few, as your brother put it, names you did not expect, and one is Shadow, one was Misha,
Shadow, yes,
and then one though was the word Cadmus on a wall somewhere. And Cadmus has the Newsboy Legion, and has Guardian, who is going to come and get in a cool fight with Diggle because Diggle stole his helmet.
I mean, we all thought they were going to make him Guardian to begin with. The introduction of Cadmus is I'm not sure how to take that. They've avoided that word like the plague for 4 seasons now. And the fact that it's just like casually dropped in the background is like, I mean, they casually dropped the names Coast City and Jordan in the foreground in the first episode of the season, so it's not that outlandish that it means nothing. But in a world where we have a Supergirl TV show where you'd expect them to deal with Cadmus, it's a little surprising. But she also has Max Lord, so she could deal with OMAC at some point also. So who knows? Maybe it will be Cadmus. Maybe it'll be a lot of crazy things that just made their way to Starling. Well, it's one of those things where they have the metahuman excuse and the people with powers, and then the other metahumans being sent from Earth 2. All these stories and villains, they try to make him as comic booky as possible, but he's a guy with a bow and arrow, right? Like he can't be fighting like Tar Pit and shit.
Right. Not without killing him.
Right. That being said, though, like the internet would go bonkers if they put the Newsboy Legion on Arrow.
You think they'd be okay with it?
Yeah, dude. I think the internet would just. I think people would love it. Like, as long as it's not outrightly stupid. I think people just have. I think that's what Arrow needs. Arrow needs a moment of goodwill on the level of King Shark, because I know a lot of people who basically were even on the two shows, and then when King Shark showed up, they were like, "Oh my god, that's just ridiculous." They need a "that's just ridiculous" that's on my screen right now moment on Arrow. And are you fucking kidding me? Like the Newsboy Legion doesn't qualify for that?
Yeah, no, that'd be pretty awesome. Did we already hear in this season that ship he was on or whatever was called Amazo? Do we remember that being the name of the ship from 2 or 3 years ago?
Yeah. The Amazo was the ship that Sarah was held captive on, and Ollie was
So at some point, are they going to bring in Amazo? Amazo is the robot that their dead doctor, the doctor from the boat, I believe, built that like replicates superhero power. That would be a good thing to bring in at some point.
That would be a really cool like Arrow Flash crossover episode where Flash can't fight him, or Legends of Tomorrow Arrow crossover episode where they can't fight him or whatever, but dude with the bow, what the hell is Amazo going to do against dude with he has no powers, you just do with the bow. But yeah, I mean, I think Arrow needs that almost more than anything else. It needs a moment where people are, the Supergirl moment where they had Martian Manhunter, floating in the air, just where people could retweet that image of this showed up on Arrow tonight, or Flash or whatever.
Okay, I totally feel that. Okay, here's not going to be good enough, but pretty cool was the first real appearance maybe of Mr. Terrific, as he's getting a fight with Arsenal, trained by Green Arrow, badass in his own right, parkour master, ripped midget as we all love to call him. No, I've never called him that before. But he throws down with Arsenal and does pretty well for himself. Brings out a T-ball to attack him with. Doesn't win, I don't think, but he does pretty damn well for himself. And it would be cool to see Mr. Terrific come alive in a functional hero capacity.
Yes, painting the T on his face would qualify as GIF worthy, retweet worthy, internet squeal worthy. But for me though, Nissa fighting Katana, A+.
That was probably a little bit too obscure to be the moment that everyone would care about, but that was awesome. And I was just gonna say that moment was close for me, just when Katana turns around and has the mask on, and then she pulls the sword out, and they're just going, oh, that was awesome.
The soul catcher or something like that.
That's what I mean. I think it has some other name, maybe.
Right.
But it is the soul catcher. I don't know. Either way, I thought she should have won. I thought at some point they should have displayed how at this one thing, sword fighting, she's the baddest. And even daughter of the demon isn't going to beat her head to head in a katana fight.
Well, she has to die, right?
What do you mean?
Well, they killed Katana. They killed Deadshot. They killed Amanda Waller.
That's what I meant. Sorry.
They killed Bronze Tiger.
Wait, they killed Bronze Tiger?
Yeah, didn't they kill Michael Jai White's Bronze Tiger
last year when they killed Deadshot?
I thought that he was one of the people that they blew up in his head. Maybe not. Maybe he's still alive. But either way, they're, as I called it last week, they're doing that. The Avon Stringer method. They're just cleaning up. So Katana,
you're right.
She's for sure. She's for sure in Suicide Squad. So she got to die.
No, you're right. Yeah, she does have to die. You're totally right. Why didn't they? I'm surprised that. Well, she's got to die soon. So you're right. Hey, maybe it's her that's dead in 4 months.
That would be. I wonder. Now that Roy's back, I could see it being Roy. If they do 2 or 3 more episodes of Roy, around or involving him, then that would qualify as acceptable.
I agree with that, but just think that this would be a whole family that Oliver has watched die in front of him. He watched the kid die. He watched the dad, his best his close friend and partner die, and then he has to watch the only remaining family, the mom who he let down twice before and who saved his life twice. And I mean, it probably wouldn't affect a whole lot of people that way, but I think you could show it to be a pretty powerful moment. Which,
no, I think
sorry.
I think we're gonna get that moment. She is gonna die in front of Oliver, and we're gonna get that moment. It's just not gonna be the death, it's just not gonna be that death.
You're right. You're probably right, but it would explain why there's nobody else at the funeral.
We're gonna get that. She's gonna die in front of Oliver, and he's gonna feel all those feelings, for sure. That 100%, that's gonna happen. But I think that they're also gonna kill his sister too. So,
I hope not. It would make sense. But I like having her be Speedy.
Somebody pointed out that we don't at the end at the funeral scene. Now we've seen like two parts of it. One of Ollie talking to Barry, and then one of Ollie getting into the car with Felicity, and Felicity saying, "Kill him." He didn't make sure he dies.
Yeah.
She doesn't say Damien Dark. It could definitely be Malcolm Merlyn she's referring to.
That's true. It could. I hope it's not Thea. I like Thea, and she's improved so much in the last year and a half that I hope it's not her. But it would make sense. I wish the actress playing Dinah could not live on the show. But they haven't even had the relationship happen yet. And I feel like it's because she can't really act great, and they don't want to have her on screen that often. And because Felicity is awesome.
No, they don't want her on screen. I this pointed out in the very beginning. The fatal flaw of Arrow was casting Katie Cassidy as Laurel Lance and Katie Lutz as Sarah Lance. Like, that was it. You just flip those two castings and everything's kosher.
Yeah, I agree. And then you would not have even needed to bring Sarah back. Although Legends is very cool, so I'm okay with her being there. But you could have just taken her as Dinah Lance, Black Canary, as Laurel from Arrow, taking her to Legends and let her be a star as opposed to a sidekick, and that still would have been fine.
But Laurel wouldn't grab the joints, and that was my favorite moment of the second episode of Legends of Tomorrow when Sarah's like, "I'll be taking those on the Wave Rider." If you're gonna get Kevin Smith to direct a Flash episode, you got to get him to direct the Legends episode where they all smoke on the Wave Rider.
You're right. Oh shoot! I think that's all I have on Arrow. I thought Arrow was awesome. I give it I'm trying to stop between an A- and an A. It just had so much stuff. The theme story is compelling. Having Roy back was great. Having the old Arrow vibe, even the old kind of first season Arrow vibe when they're running around the parkour things. This episode or the episode before where they revealed that Dark's wife is going to run as his opponent.
This episode, yeah.
So that was pretty cool too. Yeah, it was just a great episode, a lot going on and done really well. And Shadow, we didn't talk about Shadow. What is she going to be back? Was it just a vision? If it was just a vision, how is she going to have Connor? But she did get shot in the head, so she's got to be dead, right? So she just came back for one episode. They haven't had a whole lot of those like throwback flashbacks with actual people that used to be on the show. Other than one with the one with his friend.
Yeah, I mean we got Tommy once or twice, but no, I think it was just I don't know how they're going to explain that. I have no idea how they're going to explain that. So my guess is that at some point Slade grabbed her body and went back to Leon Yu, grabbed her body and threw it in the Lazarus pit. And then at some point Ollie cheats on Felicity with Shadow. And then Slade gets to come back and be mad about this whole thing at some point too.
Oh, I cannot wait for Slade to come back.
He's not coming back.
2 years. Why not? Why wouldn't he come back? He said he won't, or just that he's busy for now?
No, they were told that the character was now off limits.
Son of a bitch. I mean, that makes sense.
My guess is Suicide Squad ends with a teaser with Deathstroke. Like the tag. or whatever you call it, at the post-credit tag is probably, my guess is with Deathstroke.
I mean, that still puts him like 3 years away, probably
5 years away.
I mean, no.
Or maybe Affleck wants to use him in, maybe he wants Deathstroke in the Batman movie.
That's what I was thinking. They can still tease him in Suicide Squad, because Suicide Squad is basically Batman, Batman's rogues, gang, and they tease him there. Then I bet he would fit in great to a Batman story. There's no reason you couldn't stick him into the Jason Todd story or the Red Hood story. I mean, he makes perfect sense.
At this point, people think of that character as an Arrow, like Arrow's repurposed. He's been repurposed as a Green Arrow villain.
Well, you know what? He was for a long time the Titans villain. And I read recently the DC was trying to switch the TNT show somewhere else, because although we all just found out 2 months ago or a month and a half ago, they've known for 5-6 months TNT wasn't going to go that route. And
so what? They're gonna. All right, I'll accept Civil War. I'll accept Age of Apocalypse, or a version of it. I'll accept a version of Dark Knight Returns. The Judas Contract is based around like a 50-year-old dude sleeping with a 15-year-old girl.
Yep, that's correct.
Like, can't do it. Can't.
No, but dude,
can't do it.
All you gotta do. All you do is you make her Sansa. You make her 18 real quick. That's all you do. You make her 18, and if you're on Netflix or HBO, you leave her at 17. But you're not, because DC, they need to do something like that on HBO. That'd be awesome. But they're not going to. So they can make her 18, and then you can do it.
It's still really creepy.
Yeah, super creepy. That's for damn sure.
Dude, Woody Allen wants to direct that movie.
That would be really weird and probably a terrible idea. But
no, I just think
a lot of work.
There was a guy with gray hair dating a teenager, and then he got really excited about directing that movie.
Woody Allen as Deathstroke. Oh, that's terrible. Okay, so ratings for Arrow, unless you have something else to add.
Katana's gonna die. Legends of Tomorrow. We keep the characters that are prescribed to die. Rebels released the rest of the episode titles, and the season finale is a 2-parter called The Apprentice's Twilight. Yeah, I know. I'm already crying about that damn episode. It's 3 months from now. So anyway, yeah, that's coming. Legends of Tomorrow, episode 3, the first non-pilot part.
Here, I have to run through one thing real fast. You give us the full intro. I go A also on Green Arrow.
Yeah. Okay. So Legends of Tomorrow. This was the first non-pilot episode. You could tell it was the first non-pilot episode. There's no they're not all involved in the same story. I think that's going to be a tricky balance this show has to deal with for the rest of its existence. You had Ray and Stein paired off. Then you had Jefferson and the Cold and Heat Wave paired off, and then Rip Hunter with whoever else is left on the crew. But the pairing off of them and the then forcing the stories together, it's going to be something they're going to have to deal with. The balance was fine this episode. Mainly, I think, because Hawkman and Hawker were both kind of out of commission, and they're secretly the worst parts of this show. We had a plot line of attempting to, steal that was very convoluted, but nonetheless enjoyable. And then we had Ray and Stein paired off together, going full Magic School Bus. So anyway, yeah, Legends of Tomorrow. I was just what I was saying was this was the first non-pilot, so all the characters are not together on the same story. This is probably how the show is going to be, where they have 2 characters paired off on this plot line, 3 paired off on one, and then 2 or 3 paired off on another. And it was less cluttered because the Hawks weren't there. Like neither one of them was involved at all. So anyway, yeah, we can start wherever. I mean, I have 2 brothers who watch this show. You're older than I, and my younger one is, 10 years younger than me. I think I'm the only one of you 3 who got that, who like Magic School Bus was made for, right? So like so that reference was probably under y'all's heads. But they totally, I mean, there was an Archer episode from last season where they basically did this thing where they had to like go inside the body of a character and like be in a little ship. So yeah,
I've seen
6-year-old.
I've seen that kind of thing. There's some old like, I don't know what it is, but it's a trope I have seen before of the miniaturizing and going in the body. But what it also was, it was the Atom finally really being the Atom, down there fighting. I'd like to see him a little bit less clumsy and a little bit less reliant on lasers and a little more adept at just moving around and handling himself like the Atom is. But I guess at least this does, differentiate him from Marvel's Ant-Man in a significant way. He's not just down there super small. He's down there in an Iron Man suit, kind of.
Well, I mean, the Atom has never been doing, he's not, like the Atom doesn't shrink down to go fight miniaturized things like Ant-Man does. Ant-Man's always fighting miniaturized shit. Yeah. And, riding in miniaturized shit. And that's Ant-Man shtick. The Atom is like, the reason why he was never really a popular hero was because, all he is a scientist. He's not a hero. He just goes in and like does science. So like,
yeah, but when he's down there, he's usually more of a swimmer. And he's kind of, he's agile enough to kind of carry what's going on in a way that this Atom is not to me. But you're right. I guess that's not really a necessary function of him because he's not like Ant-Man. He's not shrinking down with an army of ants going to punch things all that often.
But that was a perfect use. I mean, that was the perfect use of the Atom. Although I did my favorite moment from the pilot, either part 1 or part 2, was when eventually all hell breaks loose and Stein is fighting. You just see Atom fly out of his pocket, like he had him in there the whole time. That was so perfect.
That was pretty awesome.
But in this, it was, they had Stein's. I really loved his whole like manipulation of Ray, and it turns out he's just a straight up sociopath. Dr. Stein is like no regards for the feelings of any other human beings. Like he's borderline the Joker. Like, in the first episode, it didn't even, the thought of not roofing Jefferson never even occurred to him. Like he was just did it. In this episode.
No, you're totally right. And when he first did that, I was like, "What are you?" And they play it off like, "Oh, this crazy old man just kidnapped this kid, and he drugged him, and he kidnapped him." And and
then in this episode, he's like, Ray. He obviously went and just looked up on the internet like Ray Palmer College, and totally was like, I remembered you. I just was playing you the whole time, and I just thought it was funny. But I really remembered you, and you did this, and you're so important. So go do this. And then when Ray gets done, he's like, "No, I didn't remember you. Not even the slightest. I had lots of smart students. You think you're special?" Like he really is just straight. I mean.
He should at least point out a particular smart student he had that is a cool comic book name that we could think of. Like, I don't know, maybe he taught Wade at some point. That's never going to be mentioned. But maybe he taught, Professor Ivo or Professor Tio Morrow or some other name that we haven't already seen.
Wait.
Dr. Hamill, maybe?
They're not going to reference, except that later on this episode, they more than explicitly do reference Bruce Wayne or Batman. I mean, like,
all right, fair enough. Yeah.
I mean, so all this stuff happens, and and then the Snart story of trying to save his sister from being abused.
That was so well done.
Why didn't you just fucking shoot him?
No, come on, he's his dad. He's always been about his whole thing, his family. And that last episode earlier in the season with Arrow that you weren't a huge fan of perfectly sets this up, and that he still wants to hope there's some good in him. He's like, it's like and I thought it was really well done. And
he should just given him cash then. Like, just here's like giant bags of cash. You don't ever have to steal again.
Yeah.
You steal the cash from the future, so like it's not already like they can't like.
No, because then he'd get busted for counterfeiting if it was cash that had incorrect numbers. I thought it was well done because it got its point with his time paradoxes. What is going on?
What's happening?
My computer lost its mind.
Okay, well, tell Gideon to chill the fuck out. But anyways, and what was what was Rip Hunter doing this episode?
Well, first he went back in time in the opening to try and kill Vandal Savage in Egypt, and he failed. Right. And then he had him dead to rights as he was leading the fight in the school, or whatever. And did he get him?
No, I was just yeah, that's right. This was the revelation that Savage can kind of impart some of his power to to other people, which I guess was kind of cool. But this Legend of Tomorrow is going to have episodes where probably the majority of them are going to be like a little convoluted, trying to have separate plots and then finding a way to force them back together at the last 10 minutes.
Hey, speaking of, what was that rock they were stealing? That big.
That's what I was wondering. What the hell? You can't steal a bright, shiny green rock and just call it some special emerald. Like, no, DC.
That was a piece of kryptonite, right? I mean, come on.
All right, it had to be, and that's going to show up on like Supergirl. Like, it has to have been. You can't just. They wouldn't do that. I mean, like, it's not like it wouldn't occur to Kreisberg and Berlanti, like, as they were watching that being filmed, or the set design, or like even the concept art for the. It's not like someone wouldn't go, "Oh, well, what the fuck are you doing? Like, make it red." Like, if it's just a stone,
right? Someone
would have said, "Make it any other color than that."
No, I totally agree. My only other big thing I want to talk about was the bloodlust for Sarah. And how is this going to tie into Arrow and Thea? And is it on purpose? Is she going to start going as bad as Thea just because it took a while to, did Constantine really not cure her? Are we going to find out that, Thea also can't be cured exactly right? Will she kill Thea? And that way one of them will have peace, and that way Thea will still die because Malcolm won't let her. I don't know. I feel like either they had a pretty big flub and not connecting the two, or there's got to be something big and long-term come out of it.
Yeah, my guess is that they are connected. Okay, so they've said that the actor, who I have no idea who he is, that played Ra's al Ghul on Arrow,
right,
will be returning on Legends of Tomorrow.
Oh.
So they could easily. I mean, he's immortal too. I mean, you got to assume him and or at least semi-immortal. You got to think that Vandal Savage and him meet like 100 years, and then like 100 years later, they're like, "Hey, didn't I meet you?"
Yeah. Didn't you sell me like a pony with a bomb?
Yeah, when we already saw Damien Dark's exact same age buying arms from from Vandal Savage in the first episode.
You're right.
And we know that he's like an ex-League. He's probably in the League of Assassins when he was making that purchase.
Right.
So I'm assuming Ra's al Ghul will show up at some, soon date, and whether that fixes Thea as well as Sarah, I have no idea. It would be cool if they were connected. I have no idea whether they are or not. The last thing for me was, so last week on Arrow, they're like, yo, there's this chick named Oracle. And this week on Legends of Tomorrow, they're like, yo, Men of Steel, Dark Knights.
Yeah, that's totally correct. They did in back-to-back weeks name drop or at least acknowledge names of Batman-centric characters, and then Superman this week. And Rip Hunter is a time master, but he's not like the Flash he is doing right now. He can't go between dimensions, can he?
No.
He can't get to parallel Earths. So,
well, I mean,
that means they're saying there's a Batman and Superman in their timeline, which also coincides with Oliver saying there's an Oracle in this timeline.
If there's a Mr. Mind and there's a Skeets, then you can probably have some universe hopping at some point. I mean, that's literally straight out of 52.
You're right. There is Mr. Mind. That would definitely enable you to do that.
But he wouldn't know that. He wouldn't know that though. I think it took them 4 years to have the balls to do that.
Just to say it.
Like, I wonder if there was a joke season 1 that they're like, nah, we gotta have 4 shows on the air. Like, we won't do it until we get 4 shows on the air. And then Supergirl airs and Legends of Tomorrow airs. And then someone was like, well, you want to fucking do it? And they just did it. I mean, like, we know that that's how they ended up with Ra's al Ghul to begin with, was like the first episode of Arrow, they name dropped Neda Parbat. And then 2 years later go like, well, you let us do that. You got to let us do this. So
so in case you didn't catch it earlier in this episode, we are recording this on Tuesday or something, Wednesday the following week. So as mentioned, I've already seen the first like 4 or 5 minutes of Flash. Have you heard who else makes a brief appearance besides, we talk about it all?
Yes, I have seen a picture of Earth 2 Barry Allen speed dial. Okay.
Have you seen a picture of who else appears in the same manner as Supergirl?
No. Earth 2 Barry Allen speed dial has Dinah, Bruce, and Clark and Hal on it.
Oh, I saw that online. All right, well, we need to watch. I want to watch the rest of it, and you need to watch the scene that doesn't have Supergirl. The scene that has a appearance, a viewing of Supergirl, also has a viewing of 3 or 4 other crazy things.
Was that Jonah Hex?
I didn't know it was Jonah Hex. Maybe. Well, it could have been. There was somebody with a gun.
Oh, the Legion.
What?
The Legion.
Nope. I didn't see the Legion.
There's a Legion ring. Yes, in that montage, there's a Legion ring.
I didn't see that. Oh, is that what that was? I did see a ring. I thought it was. I saw something that could have been a ring. I thought it was the old Fortress of Doom or something. I couldn't really tell what it was. But
no, that was perfect sense. Legion. That was a Legion ring
from Smallville.
Or yeah, I mean, I'm assuming how far Rip Hunter's not that far in the future.
I don't know. No, but they had a Legion on Smallville, and from what I can tell, another one of the pictures or two is not from this incarnation of the DC TV universe.
Yes. Okay. Yes, they had John Wesley Shipp in costume as Flash. Okay. Yes. I saw that.
They had him as Flash. They also had what looked like a version of Green Arrow. I couldn't tell if it was Justin Hartley.
Oh no! People are saying that was Connor.
That was Connor. Okay, it did not look like Oliver, whoever it was. At the end, they have somebody raise up a gun, and dark, almost. It did not look cowboyish. It reminded me of from the original Batman movie, the actor that plays Jack Napier killing Bruce's parents. It may not have been. But that's what it looked like to me.
Yeah. Okay. So that's about it for this week. Before we exit Legend of Tomorrow, and we're talking about teasings and hints at other things. So they on the Legends of Tomorrow Instagram feed, they have revealed 4 coming DC heroes from different time periods. The military helmet of Sergeant Rock, which would be the losers and the 1940s Easy Company, which is a huge part of New Frontier, and Sandman's mask, Golden Age Sandman's mask, Our Man's Hourglass, all of which are acceptable. At this point, they're just building Justice Society. They're not. All of these are cool. And this will be the last thing we do this week. Then they put up a picture of a spaghetti pot with eyes and a nose and a mouth cut out of it. This would be the helmet of Ma Hunkel, Golden Age Red Tornado. The world's, she wears a fucking pot on her head and hits people with a fucking mixer. Like that.
I have very little for that. That seems insane. But as you said, they're doing the Justice Society. I don't know. They've already got Flash 2 bringing in Atom Smasher. We've already seen different versions now of Hulkman, Hawkgirl, and they explain how they can come from different time periods. So that makes sense as how they could be in Justice Society and JLA and other incarnations. I'm not sure. I would have gone to the whatever the hell her name was, Red Tornado. But yeah, I saw that too. It's kind of weird. Maybe
she was the first parody superhero.
Right. That's what I read.
Like ridiculous beyond ridiculous in a way that was a bet that Kreisberg bet Berlanti, like you think this ridiculous? Well, you can't do Ma Hunkel. And then somebody went, I'll show you. That had to have been a bet. No one actually thinks that this is a good idea.
I'm sure they'll do a good job with it. These guys do a pretty damn good job with everything so far, but it is really, 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 really weird.
It's a pot with eyes cut out of it. Like, and she hits people with a whisk.
Yeah. Strange. Okay. So, Legends Tomorrow, you have a grade?
B+, A-. I'll do A-. No Hawks. Yeah, no Hawk stories this week, so A-. Yeah, A-.
I try to decide between A- and B+. I liked it a lot. They have so many different characters. It was but each story was done pretty well. There's not a lot of time to build a lot of depth for each one, but nothing really felt rushed. It went together well. I really liked the stuff with Stein and Adam, even though he was a real prick and kind of like a sociopath, but he's saving the world, I guess. And I really liked the stuff with Captain Cole. I thought was really done really well. I think I'm gonna go with a B+, but only because this show's ceiling feels so high that that stuff at the end was awesome. I'll give it an A-. I like the show a lot. Today was great, or that was a great episode, and I can't wait for tomorrow's. It's an awesome show. So I'll give it an A-.
Alrighty, well, that's it for this week. Enjoy the superheroes. Full slate this week, and probably sometime next week we will have a all Deadpool spectacular special.
That's right. We'll see you next week twice. And we'll do this week and try to get a little faster this time. And then next week, early next week or maybe late weekend, we'll go straight Deadpool. So
yes,
sounds good. Take care. Come back and see us next week.
All righty. Peace.